Hey guys, what is happening? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Simon, and over there in the corner behind the Fiesta is my brother David. Today I've got a really cool video for you. It's a how-to guide. We're going to be changing the timing belt and the crankshaft oil seal on this 2014 Fiesta ST. This is the 1.6 turbocharged ecoboost engine. The same engine came in a couple of Volvos and stuff like that as well. So if you're looking to learn how to change your timing belt and the crankshaft oil seal, because the one on this is leaking, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video and all the instructions. All the links for the specialist tools are down in the video description below. And if this is something you like, please consider subscribing to the channel. Helps build the channel up. Leave a comment, leave a like, helps the YouTube algorithm and massively helps us out. Thanks a lot. All right guys, so these are the specialist tools that you're gonna need. This one here is to lock the starter motor, or lock, we're gonna actually take the starter motor out, lock against the flywheel so the engine doesn't turn. This one here is to lock the camshafts at the end, the timing belt end as well, so we can actually take the timing belt off. So the starter motor is down here. We're gonna use that little special tool there to lock there. The link for that is in the description down below, and the link to get the tool to lock the camshafts at this end is down in the description below. You will see a couple of other videos. Guys are taking out things like the coil packs and taking the whole cam, the rocker cover off and all of that kind of stuff, and they are using, and I did buy it, this one here to lock at this end of the engine bay. But the Ford service manual says that you don't need to do that. We only need to lock it at this end here. So as you can see, it's a very tight engine bay and there is a lot of work to do. So first thing we're gonna do is disconnect the battery and then start taking all of this out so we can get the starter motor off, and then remove the headlight so we've got a little bit more access down here, alternator out. Then we're gonna see if we don't have to drain the coolant, can move this off to one side and just hold the line through some clips, but we do need to remove that motor mount down there to get everything else off. So let's get to work. So first things first, just going to remove the intake. So we've got these two clips here to remove this, so we can actually get this out, and then these clips here, these just slide up. I'm going to slide that up for either side, and then they just pull out. Yep, and that just pulls out. Super easy clip, much easier than some of the other ones.
Never buy tools off the Snap-on truck. Have a guess how much?
How much?
$85.
85 bucks. Are you kidding me, guys? 85 bucks for this. It is Snap-on, I guess, so maybe it'll never break, but
it is the right tool for the right job.
It is the right tool for the right job. So yeah, so just be careful while you're removing this wiring harness here. We need to obviously remove this breather hose so we can get it. This comes all the way down under here. So we do need to remove this lovely plastic intake manifold to get to the starter motor. So with this clip here, guys, I'm gonna push this little sleeve back, and this is gonna operate these little clips, and then we're literally gonna slide it off. Super easy. Okay, bit confusing if you've never seen one before. And then all the other clips, they should be nice and new, nice modern engine, not like the other stuff you see on the channel that's like 30 years old, and they just kind of pull out, clip off. All right, so once you've carefully removed all of your pieces, your wiring harness, your clips, we're going to take the intake manifold off. So we've got on either end of the intake manifold 8mm bolts. They're relatively long, and then if you look on the top of the intake manifold here where there's a little bump on the actual top of the head, there's another, if memory is, they're 10mm bolts, and they are around about this long as well. It's a little bit fiddly to get out, but if you've got small hands like me, you should be okay. So once we've got this last one out over here, guys, we are going to need to remove the alternator to get the last one off down there. Good job we don't have a little plate underneath this one catching bolts for us all. So we need to remove the alternator to get this out. So we've obviously got the electrical cables for the alternator there. We've got 2 here as well. We're going to try and get this entire bolt out, because otherwise if we don't actually get this whole bolt out and we only take the nut off here, we're not going to be able to slide the alternator off because of the aircon pipes here. All right, and then I'm going to show you guys how to actually remove the fan belt, because it doesn't have a pulley like the older cars, an adjustable one. It's an auto adjusting pulley which we can access from underneath. Alrighty guys, with the car up in the air, underneath we have, and you can see all my oil coming out everywhere as well. And we have, oh, where was it? Right up here. There we go, right up there. What we're gonna do is put a spanner on that bolt there, and we're gonna pull that spanner towards the front of the car, and that is your auto adjuster for your serpentine belt, so we can then remove the actual belt from the alternator. Let's do that. Can you reach the belt to pull it off?
Can do.
Sweet, cool, there we go. A little bit easier if you have some racks or a 2-poster lift, and rip the wheel off as well, because we're going to need to do that later anyway. Right on, so you can see that the belt is off now. Just to give us a little bit more space, we're going to remove the headlight, show you guys how to do that. It's super easy, just got these 2 Torx bits there, and then one up the top. Cool, and all we do is we rotate the light, and then be careful as well, remember, because there is a clip down in here to actually power the light. Legends, we did forget, we've got one down here as well. All right, so last one to get the alternator out is 15 mil right down here. There we go. And once that is out, we can pull the alternator out. Gives us heaps and heaps of space.
Surely there'd be a Spotify playlist that would have royalty-free music on it that you could use.
I haven't found one yet. If anyone has found one, let us know. Leave a comment below if there is a Spotify free playlist that we can use to listen to while we do this kind of stuff and not get jammed by YouTube. That is a long ass bolt. Then we have this. Show me this. Nice little special ratchet handle that moves on the top there, so we can access hard to reach places. So now we have the alternator out, guys. We can see the last bolt there for the intake manifold. We see it right down there next to my finger. If you can get some, there we go, right down here. Bit of focus. And that's the last one there for the intake manifold. So once we've got that out, we need to then disconnect the electrics for the throttle body, and then disconnect the intake hose for the throttle body, which is around down here. You can see that right down to my thumb, but I'll show you that, guys, when we do it. There's bolts everywhere on this, guys, so we did actually forget about one. So we're going to pull this evac box out, and then big old plastic piece here, and then so we gain a little bit better access to the underside of the intake manifold, so we can see that last bolt.
Here it is.
Yep, cool.
Underneath.
Down in.
Just underneath this here.
Yep, cool. So just removing the hose for the intake manifold, and we slide that off. Moving everything out of the way as much as we can. So once we have the intake manifold up, we're going to need to remove that so we can gain access to the back end of the throttle body. So we can actually remove the clip on the throttle body. And I might not be able to get it on the camera for you guys, but it is a really easy clip. It's got a yellow piece on the end of it. You slide the yellow piece back and then the clip just slides off.
She's out.
Yep. Oh, there it is.
What are we stuck on? Aha. There we go.
Nice.
Sweet.
Cool. So I'll show you guys the clip, the wires for the throttle body. We just slide it back and it comes out. And then this one here is on the front and it's a push in this way and then just pulls off. So now we have access to the starter motor because we need to remove this to actually lock the flywheel with that special tool. So now to get the starter motor out, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the power cables for the starter motor. So we've got a 12 and a 10 mil nut. So we're going to take those off so we can remove the power. And then we're going to get the car up in the air again so we can remove the charge pipes so we can actually gain access to the bolts for the starter motor to remove that. Okay. So guys, that top one is a 13 actually, not a 12. Not a bad guess though, considering it's only 1 millimeter. Pretty close. All right, so there's 3 for the starter motor. There's this one here, the one right up the top there, just slightly hidden, and then this one here, which we already removed. You can see it if I can. There. And right up here, which we removed. That one, which helped us get the actual cables off for the starter motor. So we're going to take those out and car back down and slide it out from the top. All right, so starter motor just pops out from the top there. With that off, what we're going to do now is remove this coolant pipe. We've just clamped it there and we're going to try and block it off on the expansion tank there. So we can pick it up and move it over here so we don't have to drain all the coolant out and then bleed the system at the end of the day when we refill it all. Okay, managed to block it?
No, not yet, but we will.
David's gonna stand there with his finger in it.
Yeah, and you're gonna change the timing belt.
And I'm gonna do the rest. He's gonna stand there with his finger in it all day.
The service manual would have us loosen these bolts before we remove the belt.
Yep.
So I have already removed the belt, so I'm just gonna hold it with this spanner, loosen it with another spanner, just to get them loose. Once they're loose, they'll be finger tight, or finger loose, sorry. We'll be able to remove them by hand.
Yep.
In fact,
yeah,
realistically not that hard. You could probably
just hold it. And good little tip, so give you a little bit more space to actually get the water pump pulley off.
No, that's why they want you to do it.
All right, so back up in the air after we've got the water pump pulley off. So what we're gonna do now is remove this charge pipe here, and then we're gonna remove this cap for the bearing here, and then we're just gonna remove this here away from the side of or the back end of the engine block anyway, because what we are gonna do is in this side here down the top, we're gonna be putting, and I'll show you. Where did you put it?
In the toolbox.
In the toolbox. This locking nut here, which is going to help us set the timing to top dead center. So let's do that. Yeah.
Ford says no.
Yeah, so I got this end cap off. I'm just removing this bracket now. Just move it out of the way. Ford manual says we don't actually need to remove the entire drive shaft like a few of the other videos you have here on the YouTubes, which is super handy, thankfully. Let me see if I can get in there, have a look at where you are.
Yeah, let me just see
side. right here.
See what I can do about getting in there first.
There. So what we're trying to do now, guys, is we're trying to remove the bolt behind this socket piece here, because this special tool goes in, so when we turn the engine, we'll be able to hear it against this, and this will stop it from turning any further to help us set our timing. All right, so trolley jack with a piece of wood just helps evenly distribute the weight. Because what we're gonna do now, we need to support the engine because we're gonna remove this motor mount here. So when you remove the motor mount, make sure that you actually are supporting the engine to hold it up, because this is what's holding the engine in the actual car.
Just gonna take that off.
Bit more access.
Yeah, basically. Just to be able to move the air conditioning pipe out of the way.
That's why I haven't done an aircon delete yet. So we can show the viewers at home how to do this on their street car. I left it in on purpose just for you guys at home. Very nice. Wasn't at all to do with the fact I didn't have time to take it out yet.
Has it got gas in it?
Oh yeah, it's nice, it's cool.
Oh.
The AC is nice on the track, man. It's good. And look, if it doesn't weigh too much, I'll probably just leave it.
Yeah, well, the beauty is with modern air compressors, because they've got a clutch on the pulley, there's not really any parasitic drag.
Yeah.
You know, on the accessories drive. Which
Yeah.
in an older car like the Celica would have probably sapped some engine horsepower because you're driving something you don't need to drive.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We did a power run in the Supra with the aircon on and the aircon off, and it was no different.
So yep, so these 3 bolts here are 18s, and then we'll have 3 that are 15s. See the engine just settled there onto the jack?
Yep.
All right. I found the There we go.
Cool. And you can already see, guys, that we're getting so much more space to actually work and operate on. Thank you, Ford, for putting a big engine in a little engine bay. Cool. 13 mil to take the tensioner out. So, yep. Bit by bit, stripping down one piece at a time, making space. Were you right? 30?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So Torx 30 to remove this bit here, and then lots of 8 mils around, and we'll show you where all those are to get, because there's a couple that are hidden right down there. With that, but I just don't think we're going to be able to get them all.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we got one. One definitely hidden down here.
Down there.
One right down the back and around the back of the plastic cover.
Nice.
And there we go, Loctite on it. That's why she's stubborn.
Lovely.
Down the front. Under the water pump.
So we found another.
Just under the water pump.
It helps the speaker lead his audience into the scene he described.
All right, so looking at the cover here, this is obviously the inside, and you've got all of these ones that sit and are really easy to see. The one that we didn't see was this one here, and you can see that it actually comes back. So this sits on the back end of the engine, so you need to reach behind to get access to this one, and don't forget the one underneath the water pump as well.
There we go.
Good stuff.
Timing belt exposed.
Nice. And it's not too bad, but it's getting replaced anyway. So if you remember, I said earlier that we had that little special bolt that slides in the back of the engine. We're just putting that in now. So once we've put that in here, we'll rotate the crankshaft clockwise through the pulley here. And then what's going to happen is the counterweight is going to touch up against the special tool, and it's going to stop it from turning anymore. And then we can put our other special tool down here and lock the flywheel.
I'm gonna put a bit of white paint on them.
Nah, we're all right. All right, so we've got these two marks here on the pulleys, one here and one here. They're set at about 11 o'clock now, just visually. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the crankshaft pulley. You hear that? So that, if we now look down here, these both notches are set right at the top, and we know the engine is set at top dead center. So then what we're gonna do is put our special tool in down there, and it's just kind of rested in there, but we're gonna securely put it in place. And remember that the starter motor over there on the bench is the one with the threads in it. So you're gonna need a nut and bolt to hold that in place so the engine doesn't move at all when we undo the crankshaft pulley. All right, so
what do you call a girl? What do you call a girl with no arms?
I don't know what.
Jane.
Jane.
Knock knock.
What? Who's there?
Not Jane.
Not Jay. Fuck. Oh my God. Told you guys there'd be some dad jokes. All right, and you got two kids as well, so you're the king of dad jokes. Do you want to explain to everyone what you just explained to me about why we're not removing the cover like everyone else does to set the timing?
Okay, well, apart from the obvious reason of the service manual says we don't need to, the unobvious reason is, at the end of the day, by placing this locking tool here on the ends of the camshafts, we have locked the camshafts. This is your hydraulic variable cam timing phaser. It's under different operating conditions, using oil pressure, it's going to adjust the amount of cam timing, cam phasing, VTEC for you Honda nerds out there. That is going to only have a small amount of movement in it on the camshaft. So when we do take the timing belt off, nothing in the valve train is going to hit any of the pistons. Cool, easy.
Yeah, sure. And so once we've taken it off, like there might be a little bit of movement in the camshaft maybe, but when we start the engine and run it all, because of the variable valve timing, it's going to just set back to what it would normally do because it can't move outside normal operating conditions anyway. Okay.
If you were reusing this tensioner, which I do not recommend.
No, it's not something you should reuse.
You do need to be able to rotate these two tabs around to be able to put a pin through the two, much like that standard one is. So that's holding the tension off.
Yep. Yeah.
Until we put it on.
Yeah, and then when we put this on, we pull this pin out and the tensioner auto sets for us. Which is really
All right, so we'll go down and we're going to pull the balancer off, which we've already removed the bolt for.
Yep.
And then we'll be able to pull the timing belt out and the timing gear out, and we'll see if we have a leak from the front crank seal.
I reckon we do, because there's no oil anywhere else. So once we have the pulley off, we can see now here for our crank gear. And if we look at it through this side, you can see this is definitely where the leak is coming from. And I think maybe that the flood damage on the car has caused a little bit of corrosion, which is probably why this is being super stubborn coming off. But as well, maybe that's what's caused the leak as well. And here is our tired and sad oil seal. Man, these iPhone cameras are pretty good, eh?
Are you on an iPhone now, are you?
Oh yeah, Matt's wanted a new iPhone, so I got her hand me down because I smashed my Samsung. I'm pretty impressed.
It doesn't want to. Not thin enough.
And it's coming out. There you go. Easy.
Yes, sir.
All we did to remove that, guys, was, you got that old one there? Yeah, nice. Oops.
Oh.
Well, we just super easy, way easier than messing around with a special tool or anything like that. We just put a screw in it.
Very careful how deep you go.
Very careful how deep you go. There you go. Just put a screw into the seal and then pulled it out. And it's pretty mashed. So as I said, guys, this is a flood damaged car, and you can see just where the finger is there. There's a little bit of surface rust just from obviously the water. And that rust is, although it's really small, it can be really quite sharp. So it's just gonna have damaged the oil seal. So we're just gonna lightly scuff that off just to clean it up a little bit before we put the new seal in. So we don't put a new seal in and destroy that one too. So I got the new oil seal in, just a bit of WD-40 on some really fine sandpaper just to clean it up, the surface rust off. Don't want to score it because obviously then you've got the same problem as before. And then new one in. Then we need to remove this crank positioning sensor so we can set the, what are we setting, David?
So that we can set the correct timing position for the harmonic balancer and the lower crank pulley for the timing belt. Because
Perfect.
Ford, in their infinite wisdom, first car I've ever worked on, keyless crankshaft. But hey, it works if you do it correctly. If you don't do it correctly, catastrophic engine damage. So no pressure, right, Si?
Right, no pressure. All right, well, so David's doing that. I'm going to explain to you guys what he is doing. So what he meant by like the keyless crank is that the actual crankshaft pulley itself, it just kind of rotates, and you can see that. Not like many other cars where you put it on and it just kind of sits in one place. So what we do with this one is we're going to put the tensioner on, sit the timing belt in, and then make sure that it's all, you know, sat nice and evenly. We've got no slack between the two the two camshafts pulleys. And then we'll pull the pin, essentially. Sounds funny saying that, being ex-military. Gonna pull the pin.
Is that gonna be grenade, duck and cover?
God, I hope not.
Please
and then, yeah. And then what the pulley's gonna do is, because the crankshaft gear down the bottom rotates, that is gonna pull all the tension out of the side of the timing belt, providing we have no slack in the top.
Wow.
So everything is on, no slack at the top of the belt. And then my mechanic David assures me that when he pulls that pin, and there you saw that as well, taking up all the slack, ready to go. So now what we need to do, because it is like a keyless crank, is we're going to put the pulley on. Then we have our specialist tool for everything. Where did that one go? Oh, here it is. And I'll show you how this works. So this bolts into where the crank positioning sensor is. And it holds that in place. And then this sandwiches against your actual crank gear there. And we torque it down with our new, I'm gonna bring up the torque settings for them.
Here we go.
And then we torque it down. I'm gonna shove those in the description for you, the torque settings there. And then it just holds it together. How do you feel about that?
Nervous. Won't lie.
So it is worth telling you guys that you do need to put a new bolt in when you're putting in the crankshaft pulley, because the torque settings are one setting, and then we have an angle, weight, and then another angle, the bolt itself is going to stretch. So because it is like a stretch fit bolt, you need to make sure that you have a new one to put in, because the old one is definitely a one-time use. So now we're set to 74 foot-pounds.
74 foot.
All right, so now's the torque wrench time. With his fancy digital torque wrench.
There we go.
So that's your 74, yeah?
That's my 74 foot-pounds.
Cool.
Now we've got to do 90 degrees.
So if you don't have a torque wrench like this that measures degrees, and you only have one like I have at home, which you guys have seen before, then you're obviously going to need to measure the 90 degrees. 90 degrees is a pretty easy thing to measure. Eyeball that.
Yeah, look, you can get a white paint marker and put a paint mark on the head of the bolt and on the pulley. And, you know, obviously you'll be able to gauge fairly accurately, approximately where 90 degrees is.
90 degrees, yeah. So we'll set that on the wrench now. And then do that.
90 degrees. Okay. 90 degrees.
Cool. Wait 2 seconds, it says in the service manual. But it's just kind of like a wait. Doesn't have to be exactly 2 seconds, just has to be longer than it. Then we do 15 degrees.
Surface. Degrees. There we go.
Cool. And just because when we were watching the video while you were doing that, Dave, the torque wrench when you're doing the 90 degrees one, to me, to the visual eye, it looked like it was, you know, going more than 90, but you're obviously like, you know, going some and then backing off a bit. How does the torque wrench measure 90 degrees if you're backing off and all that kind of stuff?
Short answer is I don't actually know. It's all inbuilt into the torque wrench because it is an electronic one, unlike your old school manual clicking ones.
Yep.
But it must be built into the head in the torque wrench.
Yeah, okay. How much does something like this set you back?
One of these, I reckon, I've never personally bought one. This is a workshop one. But I reckon I've seen them for like anything north of $300.
Ooh, yeah,
depending
cool.
on the brand and what they're for.
Yeah, so not a bad price then, really. I was expecting like $1,000 or something.
Possibly, I don't know. I've never bought one.
Yeah. All right, so what are we doing?
All right, so moment of truth. We've pulled all the timing gear back off after torquing down the pulley. Next step is rotate the crankshaft 2 rotations and make sure everything lines back up. If everything lines back up, mint, we've done everything correct.
All right, let's go.
I think that was 2. Were you counting?
No, I wasn't counting.
Close enough. Do you want to pass me that timing brace, Si? All right. We have a win. All right.
Guys, so there you go. That is how to change the timing belt, how to change your crankshaft oil seal as well. The last bit there, just checking the timing, was one of the most important parts, as you can imagine. Everything else is the complete reverse now to put everything back together. Things like put the motor mount back in, after, of course, putting the timing belt cover on, all that kind of stuff, put the coolant tank back in, intake manifold, all that sort of stuff. So thank you so much for watching. And like I said, if this is something you do enjoy seeing, please consider subscribing and leave a comment, tag your mates, share it with your buddies and all that kind of stuff. Helps us out. But anyways, thanks guys, and look forward to the next episode.
King of the road, trailer for sailoring. Man, trailer for sailoring. Ain't got no cigarettes, but